Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with 18 classical masters of small forms, the miniaturists. This is the end of our Composers of Every Stripe series until I can think of some other reason to do more. But for the meantime, 18, as with the 18 masters of large forms, it sort of fills out. We've come full circle in our list of major composers. And this is really a fun list. There's some interesting names here. Some people you may not expect. And of course, probably a lot that you will. But that's okay. Let's get right to it because there's a whole passel of them here. Scarlatti, 550 little keyboard sonatas. That is a master of small forms, if ever there was one. He's marvelous. Oh my goodness, his music is so much fun. And, what can I say? I mean, this is his thing. He wrote, of course, other music in larger forms and styles, but nobody much cares about that. It's the little ones, the gems, the little polished diamonds of keyboard excellence that people love, and rightly so. And then Francois Couperin. There's a lot of Baroque people here because, Baroque music is largely small forms. I mean, there are oratorios, there are operas, there are all those things, of course, and cantatas and some other things that tend to get bigger. But they're mosaic-like. They tend to be assemblages of littler things. And Couperin's keyboard suites are, like Scarlatti sonatas, masterpieces of miniature musical expression. So Couperin definitely has to be on the list, and so does Rameau. I mean, oh my goodness, could he write ballet music? I mean, dances, music with rhythm and color and deliciously orchestrated or beautifully sculpted for the keyboard, whatever it is. Rameau was a master of that stuff. He really was. And that basically gets us out of the Baroque period. Of course, there are lots of other people, many, many, many other people that we could talk about. But those are, I think, the three great Baroque miniaturists. And if you have others who you want to pop up with, well, stuff them in your own list and let me know who they are. After that, Chopin. Oh, wow. The romantic miniaturist par excellence. He wrote almost exclusively for the piano, almost exclusively in smaller forms, dances or little abstract thingies or character pieces of some kind. He could write in large forms. Most of these people could. I mean, Chopin wrote some phenomenal sonatas and larger works, but basically, he's best known for his miniatures, the minute waltz, stuff like that, little raindrop preludes and revolutionary etudes and stuff of that type. Nobody's going to argue with Chopin or Schumann. Schumann actually was able to agglomerate his miniatures into larger things, like Carnival or the Davids Buddler-Tenza or Chrysleriana, but they are collections of miniatures, and exquisite, beautiful miniatures they are. Papillon, and again, Schumann wrote lots of music in larger forms. He wrote big chamber works, he wrote quartets and sonatas and symphonies and all of that stuff. He wrote an opera or two, he wrote some large oratorio-like things, but his basic expertise was in short epigrammatic, as Tovey called them, epigrammatic miniatures, beautiful miniatures. Grieg was another miniaturist of tremendous, tremendous lyrical gifts. I mean, there are the lyric pieces, of course, and then there are all the little sweet thingies and the Peer Gynt incidental music and all of these fabulously poetic, atmospheric, harmonically interesting little jewels. Grieg, of course, comes in for a little bit of guff because he didn't write more music in large forms. Although, again, that's largely because we ignore what he did. I mean, the violin sonatas, the cello sonata, the string quartet, of course, there's the piano concerto. These are all very confident works in large forms. And he was a wonderful orchestrator, but his real gift was in coming up with beautiful tunes and sticking them in lovely settings. And so Grieg is definitely a miniaturist to be reckoned with. Then after Grieg, well, here's one, Webern. Webern was the modern miniaturist, the iconic miniaturist. The 12-tone serial, avant-garde, revolutionary miniaturist. Everything he wrote was short, thank God. It was wonderfully, well, what's the word for Webern? People, the first time when I was first listening to Webern, people said to me, he wrote in the purest of all the 12-tone styles, and every single note mattered. Every note was an individual little masterpiece of notitude. And then I would put it on, and it would go, eek, bloop, ack, eek, ack, bloop, eek. And I was like, oh, come on. But Webern knew what he was doing. He really, really did. And he understood that once he had done what he felt the material required, he stopped. He just stopped. And the result is really compressed, tight, often horrific and angst-filled miniatures. And lovely they are. I mean, the bagatelles for string quartet, the 6 orchestral pieces, the 5 orchestral pieces, little tiny works that are actually a wonderful way to get to know that kind of music, because they don't go on for a second too long. And that's always a good thing. And after Webern, well, a composer who's a little bit different, Rossini. Rossini is on both lists. I said this before. He was a master of large forms. He created the forms of Italian opera in the 19th century. The basic operatic scena and these enormously enlarged structures, which are very, very powerful and confident. But then, after giving up opera when he was really still quite young, he was only in his early 30s or late 20s or something, and having a nervous breakdown or two, he became one of the Romantic era's great and unrecognized miniaturists. For all of his péchés de vieillesse, his sins of old age, which are dozens and dozens of delicious piano and vocal works that he wrote for the Salon, his salon in Paris, and they're fabulous. I mean, he was a great composer. He was a genius, and these are no less so, and they deserve vastly more attention than they get, especially the piano pieces, I think, which are exquisite and enormous fun. So, definitely Rossini and Schubert. I mean, listen, you don't write 500 and some odd songs or 600 and some odd songs, however many he wrote, and not be a master miniaturist. I mean, goodness gracious. I mean, do we need to even say more about that? Schubert could write a tune. I mean, just amazing tunes. And all the great miniaturists really were fabulous tunesmiths. I mean, you had to be, basically. Well, Webern, okay. He was a tone rowist. But you had to be able to do something incredibly memorable in an incredibly small space. Excuse me. And Schubert definitely could do that. He was totally phenomenal at it. So was Alkan. Alkan, who's only really come back into prominence in the past few decades. His esquisses, the little sketches, and his chants, and all these little pieces he wrote are really fascinating because he had so much personality. I mean, anybody who could write the Diary of the Mad Woman, the Song of the Mad Woman by the Seashore, diary, whatever. The Song of the Mad Woman by the Seashore is a master miniaturist. That's an incredible piece. And he wrote all these wonderful little, Les Diablotins and strange, unusual, quirky pieces that were marvelous. He also wrote confidently in large forms, again, but it's the small pieces, I think, on which his reputation really, really is going to rest, because they are so much fun and difficult and exciting. Absolutely marvelous. Then Satie, we had to throw him in there, didn't we? Satie's Gymnopédies, odd little piano pieces, also quirky, humorous, amusing, and totally from another world. While Wagner was writing huge, crazy music drama things, Satie was Satie. That's Thai food. It tells you where my mind is, doesn't it? Satie was doing wonderful little anti-Wagnerian miniatures stripped of all fat. It was as lean and as pure as could be. Just delicious, absolutely wonderful, and an aesthetic revolution for his time as well. He really was. Scriabin. Scriabin was definitely a miniaturist. I know he wrote big, bloated symphonies and the Poem of Ecstasy and all this other stuff, but the truth of the matter is that his mystical chords and crazy hoogies are best heard in small quarters, his preludes and things like that are just lovely, absolutely lovely. And his sonatas get progressively shorter and more compressed. And you see that he understood, I think, that the best way to express his particular brand of crazy, mystical, harmonic, whatever he was doing, was to keep it as tightly woven as he possibly could. I don't know if he even thought it was tightly woven, but I mean, he would write as much as he could and then give up. Let's put it that way. And they're charming works. They really are. They're wonderful works, and harmonically very, very advanced, and as his work progressed, and fantastic. Also, Albeniz. People always overlook the Spanish people. I mean, the Spanish guys, they don't get a lot of attention. I mean, I could have thrown in here Torina. I could have thrown in Granados. I mean, there's a whole pile of them we could put in there. But Albeniz is perhaps the most iconic, of course, for Iberia, which is one of the most fabulous collections of piano miniatures. Actually, some of them are pretty substantial, but there's still miniatures in the universe. It's just an unbelievable piece of music. But his other suites and piano pieces are equally charming and equally enjoyable, and he definitely deserves, he deserves a place on our list. After Albeniz, of course, Poulenc. Oh, wow. Another fabulous songwriter. He would work for decades on a single tune, and a little, the perfect setting of text, a single line of a poem, to try and get it to sound as natural and effortless as possible. But also his piano miniatures are just fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. Les Soirées dans Nazel, which he hated, by the way. But they're charming. His nocturnes, they're just wonderful. Wonderful, beautiful, and you can't mistake him for anybody else because his style is 2 and 4 bars in one style, then 2 and 4 bars in another, but somehow it all holds together, and it's unforgettable. So Poulenc is on the list. Debussy. Debussy was not comfortable writing in larger forms. He really wasn't. Most of his stuff is in small forms, and oh my goodness, it's fabulous, isn't it? I mean, his piano preludes, his etudes, they're all just incredible miniatures. The Estampe, the Pour le Piano, you name it. If it's a Debussy suite or a group of short pieces, it's going to be just marvelous. Children's Corner, En Blanc et Noir. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So Debussy has to be there. And the 3 last ones here, I think, are, a little bit more recent or a little bit more unusual. Leroy Anderson, who some people say should be Leroy Anderson. I don't care. He was from New Haven. I'm from that area, too. I can call him whatever I damn well please. Leroy Anderson was one of the great orchestral miniaturists of the 20th century in light music. He wrote just great tunes. So many of them. They're absolutely wonderful. And so, the syncopated clock and, the sleigh thing, the Christmas thing that everybody does, and da 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 bum bum bum. No, you know what I mean. You've heard them all. Bugler's Holiday, and fabulous. After Anderson, Mompou, another Spanish guy. He's really sort of come into his own in the past few decades. He was a major miniaturist. I mean, that was basically all he did. His canciones y danzas, songs and dances, and music of silence, musica callada. These tiny little aphoristic, if that's the word, miniature gems, fabulously polished, often very subtle, and just lovely. And last but not least, Percy Grainger. I mean, Percy Grainger never seems to get on any list because he was just so quirky. He was so weird. And, most of what he wrote were folk song settings. He did the same things over and over again. Molly on the Shore, Handel on the Strand, Shepherds, hey! 50 versions of each one for every conceivable ensemble, harmonized every possible different way. Well, that is a master miniaturist at work. I mean, he really loved these tunes that he collected, these melodies, and lavished more care and love and talent and creativity on each one, on each setting than most composers spend, on their entire life's worth of symphonies and quartets and things. I mean, really Extraordinary stuff. A fabulously individual and quirky miniaturist who I think makes the perfect ending to this survey of 8 classical masters of small forms. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks so much for joining me. Take care.